Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is my walk and talk seller chat. Please read the show notes. And if you are new to me, tell me what you sell or what you're going to sell and when your next show is scheduled. Welcome in. Welcome, welcome. All right, today, if you go to the show notes, the very first starred bullet in the show notes is the Whatnot Seller account. If you've never been there, I wanted to show everybody that account and make sure you know to go watch the shows that are on that account. So you just go to the For You page and type in Whatnot Sellers. So it's an official Whatnot account that looks like this. Whoops, my screen just flipped back. Hang on. All right. And tomorrow on that account, they're going to be interviewing Hodgepodge Place, the Hodgepodge Place, Christine. And she's an amazing seller. Make sure you have that show bookmarked if you can at all possible. Go and watch that live. And if not, they will post it to the Whatnot YouTube account within a week or two of that interview happening. But definitely plan on trying to get to that. And then on the 21st, they're going to be interviewing someone. They don't have it yet on there yet. On the 28th, they are doing a show about shipping. And it will just be a show for new sellers to talk about shipping. And then on the 4th of February, they're going to do a new product update show. So they talk about updates to the platform. So make sure you're following this account. It's the first starred bullet in the show notes, and always have good information there. And the interviews with sellers are my favorite because you get to listen to someone who's been very successful on the platform talk about how they became successful, and they'll give you, and they always pick their brain about, what kind of things do you do, what about this, what about that, and it gives you a lot of good ideas and helps you to brainstorm things that you can do better as a seller to improve your own shows. So Crafting with Chris is having her first show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. She sells buttons, button flowers, and small vintage items. Love it. So can everyone please give Crafting with Chris? I'm going to tap on her name, give her a follow, and let's go view her profile and get that show bookmarked. So tomorrow, I love your thumbnail. It has cute stuff. And then let's get those shows bookmarked. And she's doing the right thing. She's already got, look how many shows. I'm still scrolling. So she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 shows that we can bookmark. So that's awesome. I'm going to get them all bookmarked. Can everyone please do that? Just tap Crafting with Chris's name and bookmark those shows. And I kicked myself out while I was doing that, of course. So everybody do that for Crafting with Chris. Welcome in, everybody. Please read the show notes. And if you are new to me, please share, like Crafting with Chris did, what you sell and when your next show is. And I'm happy to open your profile and bookmark your shows and give you a follow. So everybody do that. You are so welcome. So welcome. And welcome to Whatnot Selling. All right. So I would suggest that behind your little logo here, you put some pictures of the things that you sell, like you did on your thumbnails, just to kind of dress it up and show people what you sell. So put some of your cute buttons and vintage things and things you've made in that backdrop so that it kind of dresses it up a little bit. And then I always do like when I go to someone's profile, I like to see a little bit of information about them. And hers is good. Buttons, button arrangement, small vintage items. Okay. Just a little something so people can get to know you a little better. But don't do like huge paragraphs. Do it small like this button, bulleted out so that it's, just something quick someone can read to learn a little bit about you. Okay. All right. We've got a question. Let me go back into chat. Made a big mistake on Whatnot. Never have done it before, but somehow the weights got changed on my giveaways. If I contact Whatnot, will they help? Did you accidentally put like a pound instead of an ounce or something like that? So it charged you $9.21 for each giveaway. Okay. You can try. I can't promise a whole lot. But if you tell them that it was stickers and you accidentally put a pound and it should have been an ounce, and you're obviously are going to send it in a box, in a flat rate box or whatever, they might fix it for you. However, most people do not end up getting refunded. I'll just tell you that. You did 40. Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely reach out, plead your case, beg. That's not cool. So, yeah, I am so sorry. Yeah, that I would think with it that egregious, and if especially if you can show them pictures of what you gave away. Did you give away gift cards? So, or stickers or something yeah, so just show them proof of what you gave away and just say please help me out because yeah, that's very costly mistake. So just show pictures. Make sure when you initially email them, here's a really important tip. When you initially email customer service, include everything, you know, the name of the show, the date of the show, your name, your email address to reach back out, even though it's obvious the one you're emailing from. Make sure it's the one that's in your account on Whatnot. And also, um, once you have sent them that information, stay on the same email thread until it's resolved or until you've reached whatever resolution. So go back and forth on the same email thread. It will help you a lot to do that because then because you get a different customer service agent every time you interact, because the first person might send you a response for more info or whatever. And then if you start a whole new email, it will go to a different person and they won't have the history. So it's super important to stay on the same email thread and give them as much information on your issue the first email so that they don't have to ask for more information. All right. Hope that helps. Diane says my first show is on 122 at 6:15 p.m. Valentine's recycled and remembered Diane's primitive plus designs. I offer hand painted recycled wood decor and gifts. Awesome. Welcome. Let's everybody give Diane C a follow and let's go check your profile. So again, get a logo, get something in your backdrop to dress this up to show kind of what you're selling. You have hand painted items. That whole backdrop should be full of things that you make. And then just bullet out this information. It's nice. We learn a little bit about you, but kind of give it a little bit of a more, you know, bulleted type view so that it's not one big paragraph. And then here's your show you've got book scheduled for the 22nd. Before you have that show, in fact, please today go in and schedule more shows so that when you have that show, people have something to bookmark. That's one of the big mistakes that almost half the new sellers make, is that they have their first show scheduled. They have that show and there's nothing for people to bookmark to come back again. So make sure you have a lot of shows scheduled for people to start bookmarking. That's the number one way to start being found, is to have shows on the schedule. Okay. So awesome, Diane. Excited for you. Have that bookmarked. Got you followed. Please, everybody, follow Diane and be a good community seller. What do I mean by that? When you come into shows like this, you would love for everybody to give you a follow and bookmark your shows, right? Well, do the same thing for other people. That's one of the ways that we network. And that was one of the topics I wanted to talk about today, is networking. It is so important to network on this app, on this platform. So make sure when you come into shows like this, where it's not a selling show, I'm just, seller chat, seller support, please follow each other and bookmark each other's shows. That's something nice you can do to help each other out, and a way that you can network. Okay. All right. So thank you for sharing, Diane. And let's go down. Yeah, you're welcome, Big Money. Yeah, hopefully that gets fixed for you. But again, stay on that same email thread. Wanderlust says, I'm considering setting all my books to £1 to force priority shipping to save me upfront cost materials for the next few shows. Opinion. This is what I would do. Sell your heavier books, and then if you have enough variety, bundle the other ones. So like if you have books that are similar that someone might want both, or put out like 4 or 5 books and let them pick 2. And that way it justifies the weight. Does that make sense? Yeah, I understand. If you have it as books, why is it costing you extra to ship them? Just because of the packaging cost? You're just okay, the materials, yeah, so that you can use the flat rate boxes. Yeah. So that's one thing to do. Although people who buy books, if they're only buying 1 or 2, are going to want the media shipping rate. So they're going to be maybe a little bit turned off if they're having to pay. So you might consider trying something to get some free packaging of some sort. And I know you're probably thinking, well, but it's poly mailers that you would have to buy. So, be creative about looking for free packaging. I mean, seriously, ask your friends and neighbors to save their Amazon bubble mailers and just upcycle, you know, for a while until you can afford to buy packaging. Because if people aren't going to want to buy because you're making them pay $9.21, then in the end, it would have been better for you to, offer the media rate. So, yeah. And then encouraging them to buy more than one, I think, in bundle you know. So put out, however many you could fit on your view and let them pick more than one will help too. So bundling. So yeah. Because yeah, I don't know if they're gonna be turned off about having to pay the higher shipping. They may just not buy at all. Let's see. Do pictures I upload need to be a certain size? I'm just starting to take my pictures for my first show. If you want to do pictures, that you take in advance and then you upload them, just use, if you're using an iPhone, pretty much the square, or let me think what size it automatically is. That usually works fine. Um, but if you can just take the picture as you list it, then obviously it's already sized by the app. So either way, either way works. But yeah, the square, I think it's called square, or I'm trying to picture on my iPhone. But the one that is kind of like slightly rectangular is the one you want, so that it'll, fit in there. And you just, the very first picture, the main picture is actually smaller. So make sure when you're taking the picture you want to be the cover, it is not focused in too close, because then it will cut off your product. Let me see if I can show you sizing on here. So let me pretend like I'm going to add um, an item. So create quality listing. And so if I tap to take a picture, so that very first picture, it says, see how it says your product cover image should fit within the frame for best results. And so if I were to take a picture of something, so let me just move this. I'm going to take a picture of my dashboard here, except I'm moving and it's not liking it. Okay, so here's the cover photo. It actually looks about the same on this one. Maybe on the phone, it's slightly different, because this is an iPad. Because usually the picture looks like this on that one. Yeah, it is. See how there's gray above on this picture where there's not on this picture? So it is a little bit more narrow. So yeah, you just have to kind of make sure it fits in there. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't more descriptive. It's hard to know what phone people have. An Android might be slightly different. So just kind of play with it. But for sure, when you're doing um, uploading pictures that you've already taken, you want that size that's just slightly rectangular, except for that first picture. So when you take the first one, be far enough back that the whole product is going to fit in that more narrow window. If that makes sense. All right, welcome in everybody. Please read the show notes. And if you have questions, put a question mark. And Bayou Sister Finds, welcome in, is a new seller on Whatnot. Next show is tonight, Working Through Clothing, and we'll start estate sale and vintage decor next Tuesday. Awesome. Welcome to Selling. Let's give Bayou Sister Finds a follow. Bayou, I said it right the first time. And go check out those shows. So it's sisters, Michelle and Rona, bring you thrifted treasures, vintage gems, closet cleanouts. And I like your little logo. Put some stuff behind so we can see the stuff you're selling. and or just something that's your vibe. Bullet out your little paragraph here so it's not just one big bloop, kind of bullet it out a little bit more. And today there is a show at 7. Let's get that bookmarked. Flashback Fashion and Sparkle Part 2. And then the 15th. And then here's her first vintage. And I like how you put your little logo as a little vignette on there. That's cute. So everybody go in and give them a follow and bookmark these upcoming shows. Is this a photo of your actual booth? Like your actual stuff? I'm asking for an important reason. So this thumbnail that you've got with the vintage stuff, is that actually your stuff? So no. Okay. The reason I'm asking is because you will have people who will come because of that thumbnail and ask you for those specific items. So if that's not your stuff, I would recommend a different thumbnail, like something that's drawn, that's really obvious that it's, just generic. Because otherwise you'll have people coming in. Do you have that butter dish, that little crock? Do you have that, teapot with the flowers? And they'll be disappointed when what you had on your thumbnail is not your actual stuff. Not to mention, that you took a picture or got this picture of someone else's booth or whatever. So make sure if you put actual product on your thumbnail, it's actually stuff you're going to have. Yeah. So use Canva to draw you a nice thumbnail with, that's more drawn and just kind of the vibe you're looking for, or actually put together, your vignette, your shelf of your actual stuff you're going to sell, and take pictures of that so that, nobody comes in disappointed that that's not what you actually have in your show. Kind of, I don't know, it kind of gives people the vibe of bait and switch. They're baiting you with this beautiful thumbnail of all these items. They come in the show and you don't have any of that stuff. Yeah. Yes, use Chat GPT or Canva or something to show people. So let me just show you one of mine, for example. If I don't have time to get my shelf ready to actually take a picture, so like I sell fabric, but here's my thumbnail for my show today. It says Sew Soft, spelled S-E-W, flannel and minky. And there's nothing real in the picture. It just gives the vibe. Hey, like it, swipe it. How are you today? Welcome in, Tara. So if you're not going to actually show the actual products, just give a thumbnail that gives the vibe and the info without being too specific. So, yeah, that's important. And let me mod Tara, if you can stick around. Yeah, can't complain. Therapist told me to stop complaining because I ain't paying her. There you go. Well, isn't that what spouses, partners, kids, moms, that's what they're for, right? They have to listen to you complain because they are your other person, right? I actually use Canva and Chat GPT. I paid for the Canva because I like a lot of the other features you can do, but I'll be honest, I like the images that Chat GPT generates better sometimes. But Canva, when you create an AI image on Canva, it gives you, I think, 4 or 5 options. So every time you generate an image, it creates 4 or 5 choices for you, and you can actually go in and edit them. Whereas on Chat GPT, it creates an image, only one, and you really can't. I mean, you can edit it by telling it to change something in the image, but I don't know. So I kind of like Canva better, and I'm kind of being cheap, and I don't want to have to pay subscriptions on both. So right now I'm using Canva. Um, so yeah, they have the AI image generator. Size it 3:4, 3:4 size is what works for thumbnails when you go in there. So you just use the AI, tell it exactly what you're thinking, and it will create images for you. The thing that's challenging on both Canva and Chat GPT is getting it to put the correct words that you want. If you want it to put a title, it does lots of weird spelling mistakes sometimes, and also puts foreign words. I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe just because it doesn't know what you're trying to get at. And so you have to be, be very specific, but don't get too wordy. So let me just show you on. So here's my show today. These were all made on Canva. So I just told it, draw me an image that has soft colors, bright, and then your has the title "So Soft," and gives the image, because I'm selling flannel and minky today, right? And then here's my show for Thursday, and I'm doing vintage linens and decor. And you can see it put all these vintage kind of things there, created that. Um, Tara, who is in chat that just joined us, like it, swipe it. Her thumbnails are amazing. She does fun stuff. Click her, everybody click her name really quick. And let's view her profile, because she does really fun stuff with her thumbnails by putting their faces into different images. So here she is today as Ms. Scarlett, right? How cute is that? That's actually her face in the image. So which software did you use for that, Tara? So Gone with the Wind vibe. And then the 16th is our Fabric Feud raid train. She's doing um like the bad girl. What show is that from? The high school of whatnot. That's hilarious. Yeah. So Google Photo and Reface app and Canva all combined. Mean Girls, yeah. So that's hilarious. I saw that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's funny. So go look at some of her. I mean, she's got amazing thumbnails, right? Look at all of these. So she just told you what she uses. And honestly, I don't know, not everybody loves it, but you can get lost making images on AI. Like you'll look up and 5 hours later, I'm kidding, but not kidding. You've generated like 200 and you're like lost in creating images. It's so much fun, right? So yeah, you can kind of get lost doing it. But it's fun because you just get all these fun ideas and it makes them so quickly. I mean, you can make these images in mere seconds that would have taken hours and hours and hours for you to actually draw or create on your own. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, I love it too. A little bit too much. I get excited about making images. So you like it more than I do. I can tell. East Coast says I enjoy making thumbnails. Yeah. And honestly, thumbnails are huge. They're huge. I mean, if you go out to the For You page, right? So you're on the For You page. What's catching your eye? Do this as an experiment. What shows are you like, oh, I want to see what's in that show, because of their thumbnail. Now, I'll be honest too, something like this also gets us excited just because those of us who love fabric, we're like bins of fabric, I'm there, right? But, you've got to have thumbnails that people want to come into your show. What do you have? What are you selling? Something that gets people excited. And then the title is also huge because you can tell more in just that little title. $1 starts. See, like, I'm not picking on anybody, but this is a horrible title. It says vintage, but it's in quilting sewing fabric. Okay, that's all she's going to tell us. Give more, you have, I know it's limited, but use it to the best of your ability. Use that title to really, because like this one, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to that show. Jeans, and there's a picture of a pair of pants. Boring. So be really selective about what you do on your titles and thumbnails. Put on your buyer hat when you create your title and your thumbnail, and go do that experiment. Go out there and look at the ones that catch your eye and write down why did that catch my eye? What can I do with my title and thumbnail that makes people want to come? Okay. Being on the Whatnot committee, do you think they will create a drop down that we can curate to what we choose, kind of like a tab? Okay, be more specific. I mean, category, a tab, curate to what we choose, kind of like a tab. I'm trying to picture what you're picturing and it's not coming to me. So be more specific. Drop down. Like in your category, when you're creating a listing, or your show category. Because compared to what it was, they have tons more categories and more specific. But you have to be careful about wanting, because you may think to yourself, oh, it'd be so great if we just had this category. But the way that the algorithms work, you're actually better having something a little bit more broad, because if it's too narrow down and too niche, nobody's going to find you. Because you want to always keep attracting new people. And if they didn't even know that category or that type of item exists on the platform, they aren't going to even know to search for it. So you want a category that is still broad enough that people will be able to find you. So if it gets too narrow down, now that's different than the little tags that you can put on. Those narrow it down for you a little bit, and those can help bring people into your shows. So did that answer that, East Coast? Or am I totally off on what you were asking? I'm organizing new sellers raid trains. It would be so much easier if I could put them into their own category. Let's see. So the category of new seller raid train. So you were wishing that there were a category called new seller raid train, is what you're saying, or new sellers, or different categories because you can already just make raid trains in specific categories, right? So just for me to be able to look and see who is interested. Hmm. So in other words, you want to just search by new sellers. So if you go to the For You without a ton of messages. Okay, so in your messages, in your messages, in your message system, you want to be able to sort your messages. Welcome back. So is that what I'm getting at? Is you want to be able to sort your messages by categories or by like a keyword or something like that? Anything to make it easier. Okay, so just more sort ability within messaging, right? So within the message system. Um, Let me think about the message system. I mean, if you go into your messages, I'm just thinking here for a second. So the only really sort you can do right now is newest, purchases, and unread. So if you had a way that you could search by some other category, right? Is what you're thinking. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely ask if they're, if they can start, because it'd just be like in your own email where you can just type in a word or something that allows you to sort. I agree. It would be nice to be able to sort easier. Are you creating groups when you organize your raid trains? So like each raid train, you have a group. Because you can create a group, and that should make it a little easier. Just make sure when you title your group that you have the title, maybe use the date and then the name of the raid train. And that way, this is for this raid train on this date. And you only invite the people to that group that are on that raid train for that date. And then you'll be able to find that group easier by date in your messages and tell them to keep all messages related to that raid train on that thread. That makes sense. That would be a suggestion for that. Vibe Fashion is new. She would love to be on a raid train. So Vibe, reach out to East Coast, message and ask about raid trains. All right, so what the topic I wanted to talk about today, which is not a big deal that we haven't gotten to it yet, because I love when you guys have questions, is networking. I wanted to talk about networking. So a lot of people have been concerned about feeling like they are kind of being like whoever initially found them and became their followers and their buyers, they feel like they've been there's a word I'm looking for that's not coming to my brain, but it's like you're welcome. You've been kind of corralled into just those people that know about you and find you and come to your shows, and you feel like you're not getting a lot of exposure outside of that. And honestly, the way the algorithms work, that's probably somewhat true. So you have to forcibly go outside of what the app normally will do to you, because people have the ability to filter, and it will show you. It's just like any other app. It filters and shows you what it knows you like and where you buy, where you spend your money, right? So it's naturally going to be trained to show people where they normally go and where they normally spend their money. And it's not going to necessarily show you a whole lot else. And that's, from a buyer's perspective, that's kind of what you want to see, sort of. But from a seller perspective, that makes it hard for you to break into new, customer bases. So how do you go around that? How do you kind of trick it, so to speak, so that people can find you? Well, one of the biggest ways is to network by joining raid trains, because then you get exposure to people who follow someone else. Because every time you get a raid on that raid train, it's the people who followed everybody else on the raid train, possibly whoever can stick around, but you're going to get a lot of exposure to other people's followers. So the whole idea of a raid train is exposure, networking to get new followers, get new buyers, get new customers, right? So raid trains are huge and can really help you, get some new exposure to people. Another way that's huge is always raid when you finish a show. Hey, Cheryl, how are you today? Hope you're having a great day. So always raid when you finish your show and be strategic about your raids. Sometimes raid into a smaller show because you might get a little bit more personalized attention and they're going to be a lot more grateful for your raid. But also sometimes raid into big sellers who have a big audience, because you're going to get more exposure to a bigger audience. Maybe not as much individual attention, but a bigger audience. So be strategic about your raids. Do some of both. Sometimes raid someone new to bless them, get a little bit more personalized attention. Sometimes raid a medium sized seller, sometimes raid a large seller, really kind of mix it up. And sometimes raid into categories that aren't necessarily the category that you are coming from, because strategically there's a lot of people that cross over into, other categories that may not know you exist. So don't always raid into the same category. Mix it up. And don't get into the rut where you just always raid the same person, because that's not getting you. I mean, it's nice. They're your buddy. You're excited to raid them. But networking wise, it's really not giving you that exposure that you're hoping for. And not all raids are going to be hugely beneficial, because sometimes you raid and there's like, oh, hey, thanks for the raid. And that's the end of it, you know. But people do still see. They see your name pop up. They see that you rated, and you can do little things like, okay, when we raid, everybody put this in the chat. That does help give you a little bit of attention. It's like, oh, who's this? They're putting butterflies in the chat. They're putting whatever in the chat. Who is this? So you do get notice when you raid. So that's huge. And then the other thing that I think is probably the most important, not the more immediate benefit, but most important, is you need to be on the app networking, being in other people's shows, making comments, supporting other sellers, getting your name out there. And if you have the time, and you've made some good friends in other sellers, offer to moderate. Moderators get a lot of exposure because you're there. You're there a lot. You get a lot of exposure. Hey, the Aaron Spear is here. Welcome in. How are you today? So, yeah. Those are some of the bigger ones. And what do I mean by networking? You don't want to go be spammy and go shout yourself out in shows. You want to just be there and making comments and encouraging and helping and, being part of your community so that people start learning about you and who you are and what you do. So just really networking is important. Anyone else have any other comments or ideas about things you can do to network? Um, Another thing I'm going to say is when you're outsourcing and just out in your everyday life outside of Whatnot, does anyone have a life outside of Whatnot? Just asking for a friend. Um, when you're out doing other things, always talk about what you do. Always, always. You think you used to? I know, same, right? Um, you'll never know how many new people you can bring to the app by just talking about it regularly. Everyone that you know needs to know what you do. They need to know your account. They need to have been given an invitation to join. Um, you know, Talk about it, share it, because that's how we collectively get more people to come to the platform and be potential, customers. Maybe not for you, but for somebody. And that's okay too, you know. So be community minded about that. Always share what you do, share your username, what you sell, etc., etc. So always network on and off the platform. So back to the just be a good person. Yeah, I know. I beat that to death, don't I? Be a good person. It really does help, you know? People like people who are nice and good. The end. Be good and you're going to have better life. And you're going to have more people come to your shows. And, right? All right. So, networking. Anyone else have any other things they want to comment about networking or things that you've seen happen because of things that you did? Um, that you did that you're like, oh, that was really good that I did that. An experience you've had, someone's show you were in, someone you rated. Paid promotions. I have really mixed feelings about paid promotions. Um, Having your show promoted does put you at the top of search, but it shows that you're promoting. It's small, it's not super noticeable, but it is showing that you're promoting, right? And so, in my opinion, if you're in a category that's super crowded and there's a ton of viewers, like let's just pick on women's contemporary, and you're new and you feel like you need to promote to even be found, it probably will help you. It may even help you a lot. And you may be willing to spend the money to promote for a month or two just to kind of get yourself out there, right? But in categories where people kind of come on, there's maybe 10 to 30 shows live in that category, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference because you just don't need to be the number one show in a category where there's only 10 to 30 shows live at any given time, because people are going to scroll through and find the one they want to go to anyway. So it just depends on the category. Sponsoring another seller's giveaways to get some notice. Yes, that is definitely something you can do. And if you do that, do it back. So, be a networker by buying something from someone and then sponsoring them, and then get other people to do the same for you. Send them some extra goodies if they bought something, and put a note. Would you mind giving this away in your show? And I think most sellers would be thrilled to do that. So if they buy something from you, throw in a few extra goodies and say, hey, give this away in your show and shout me out. And then they've got a free giveaway they didn't have to source. But be good about it, meaning send something they're going to be able to send in an envelope, or, for the lowest shipping rate, so that they're not having to pay a huge amount of shipping. So send a gift card, send a really cool ephemera or a postcard, or something that they aren't going to have to pay a huge amount of shipping on to give it away for you. But yes, I like that idea. People used to do that a lot more. I don't see it as often. Um, but I think it's a great idea. I did it yesterday in my show. So I gave away a nice item that one of my friends made as a buyer giveaway, and shouted her out and showed it. So, yeah, totally a good thing to do. Good vibes all the way around. Being a good person. All right. So, yes, that's a good idea. So, any other thoughts or ideas of ways that you can network to, help yourself grow? Another way I think that could be good for you, you'll just have to experiment with it if you're willing, is to try doing some shows in other categories from time to time than the regular category that you sell in. Um, Either by joining a raid train that is cross category, or just having a show in another category and see, what traction you can get. And always, when you have shows that are kind of cross category, what do I mean by cross category? If you mostly sell women's clothing, but you want to experiment with getting into men's clothing, have some men's clothing in your women's clothing show that you kind of have in your buy it now, or you feature, because the women coming might be buying for the man in their life. You know what I mean? So you can do some things within your show to kind of network a little bit, crossover, and feature other things. How do people find out about raid trains? Just by networking? That's probably one of the bigger ways, but also there are Facebook groups for raid trains. There are people who sponsor raid trains that actually invite people to come. So just by being a good seller with a good reputation, and, voicing that you're interested in raid trains in shows like this, people will start talking about it, and you'll start naturally getting invites or finding out about where to look, etc. So, yes, networking. But also, I tell people, just go to the For You page and search within the category that you want to do raid trains in, and just type in the word raid train. And any show that has that in the title is going to pop up. Go to some of the shows, or go and read show notes, or go look at the thumbnail and see who the host is and message them. Don't be shy, reach out. And the answer might be, no, this is invite only. But it doesn't hurt to try. Be nice about it, and just ask, hey, I'm looking to get into some raid trains. Do you have openings? And a lot of times they will, you know. but make sure you're prepared to do a raid train. So if you're pretty new and you've never done one, try and do the ones that are specific for new sellers so that they're going to be a little bit more patient with you and understanding and help you and guide you. If there's more prominent, fast paced raid trains, don't get into those until you are very confident about about being able to run a show and to be able to run a show quickly. Because the worst thing you could do for yourself is to get onto a raid train and you're not prepared and you derail the train. And not only did you goof up the train, but everybody saw, and everyone's kind of like, oh, this person does not know what they're doing. And it's going to be detrimental. So don't do the raid trains until you know that you can do a fast paced, quick show, stay on task, and, do the requirements for whatever the raid train requires. So, be careful about, because you don't want to hurt yourself by looking bad because you weren't able to, run a show. I know I'm making it sound scarier than it is, but that's true, right? You don't want to be the person on the raid train that the raid comes and you're fumbling around and you don't know how to run your show quickly and everybody leaves and then it's like, well, crap. That raid train just went down the drain, right? So make sure you know what you're doing. You have a fun show put together. You can do it quickly, so you've got yourself organized. And yeah, I see it happen a lot too. And it's kind of embarrassing. And I feel bad for the person, but I feel bad for the whole raid train because everybody that comes after you suddenly is not getting as big of a raid because that one seller was like, what? Right? So make sure you're prepared because you're not going to get invited again, right? And you kind of look foolish because you weren't prepared. So if you're going to participate in raid trains, you've got to have the time to get it ready, make it happen, and be able to run a quick, fast paced. Because most raid trains are, the max is usually an hour. Most are, anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes is probably the norm. And you've got to be able to do a fast paced show. Yeah, so yeah, Like It Swipe, it's had to get in before and go on live for 10 minutes, give some stuff away just to get enough people back on to the raid train for the person in the list, so you don't want to be the person that made that happen. So for sure. And that's another thing too. And I'm not saying anyone in here is this way, but if you're normally what's the nice way to say this? If you're normally kind of a flaky person, maybe raid trains aren't for you. Like you're the kind of person that just doesn't get prepared and isn't going to make it happen, and you flake out at the last minute or you get scared and don't want to do it. Don't join raid trains, please. 'Cause then it's like the massive headache for the person who is trying to organize and keep that train going. It's okay if you have emergencies happen. That's normal. Try to give as much notice as possible, but don't join raid trains if you're normally a flaky person who's not going to show up and do it. Be honest and say, raid train's probably not a good idea for me. I can go live when I'm ready to go live, but being organized and prepared and on time for someone else's raid train probably is not my not my best feature, so to speak. Now, I'm just being honest, okay? So, because you don't want to derail a train, because then makes you look stupid, gives everybody trying to run that train a headache, And yeah. So yeah, but East Coast does new seller rate train. So if you're interested in being part of a raid train as a new seller, she's doing 20-minute slots. So there you go. Reach out to East Coast. And it sounds like she does multiple categories. So yeah. Yeah, it's not everyone's forte, and it's okay if it's not your thing. If you're the kind of person that can only go live when you're just like totally in the mood, or you have high anxiety and you can only go live when you know your levels are down and a raid train would make you through the roof, just don't do it. It's going to be more harmful to you than it is going to be beneficial. So do the things for networking that are actually going to work for you, like being part of other people's shows, coming in, making comments, all the other things that you can do to network. Um, so networking is kind of what my topic was today. Let's talk about it from the perspective of this document right here in my, let's see. Well, let me actually just pin a couple of things. So this document is my, why is my thing not going? Is my top 10 tips for new sellers. This is ancient. I need to redo it. It's kind of funky looking. But anyway, it's my original, when I started doing these seller chat shows, it's my original list of like the 10 commandments from Draz of the things that you need to be doing to be a successful seller. So I pinned it, just tap it again to make it big, and you can take a screenshot. But all of these are tried and true things that you need to be doing consistently to make sure that you are on track for successful shows on Whatnot. And none of these have changed drastically at all. All these things still true. Number one tip, schedule shows. And if you do nothing but just make sure you have a lot of shows scheduled, that's going to help more than you can imagine. Okay. So, number one, schedule shows. Now, of course, if you're going to schedule shows, you do need to go live. Don't be like a few sellers that I've seen that have tons of shows scheduled. And I don't know why they never manage to go live, but every once in a while. So those shows just keep accumulating and getting moved and moved and moved and moved. I know some people have hectic lives or have high anxiety, but ultimately what you're training people is, yeah, I have all these shows scheduled and they have hundreds of bookmarks, but I never actually go live. So you got to go live. That's number two. Okay. And then number three is you've got to have some things listed in your shop, in your shows, so that, especially, this is more important when you're new than anything. People need to see what kind of stuff you're going to have to see if they want to come and stick around in your shows. And if they've never been to your shows, that's what's going to tell them what you're going to have to offer. It's a little less important once you're established, but still important for helping you to attract new buyers. Have things listed and do quality listings, things that have multiple pictures, good descriptions, and a quality listing that someone would be willing to buy out of your buy it now without you showing it. Quality listings, okay, they make a huge difference, because then people see what you have. Guilty, I move times a lot. Yeah, most of us do, but here's the thing. It's okay to move shows if you're still consistently going live. There's a big difference between someone who consistently goes live versus someone who has a bunch of shows on their schedule and you haven't seen them go live in months. Big difference, big difference. Okay. And then number 4 is stay live for at least 1 to 3 hours. When you're new, if you don't stay live for at least, and I'm talking bare minimum 1 hour, you will never get found. And then you'll keep doing 1 hour or less shows and wonder why no one's finding you. It's because the way the platform works, you're down at the bottom when you're new. If you make it within the time frame of being new and when they promote a show, you might have a really good first show because they promote new sellers. But then once you're out of that free promote time, you are on the bottom again. So you've got to stay on long enough to be found. Susie says, if I go live for 2 hours, I sell fabric. About how much fabric on hand do I need to sell? A rule of thumb when you're new is you probably want to have, 30 to 40 items, depending on how fast you show and run, for an hour's worth of stuff. But then you don't necessarily have to have an additional 30 to 40 because when you're new, you typically get people coming in and out. And so your audience in that second hour could be a completely different audience than the first hour, and you can recycle through what didn't sell. But I would say definitely, minimum of 30 to 40 items to have enough to show and go through. And if you're new and you're going to go at a little bit slower pace, you'll definitely have enough to show. If if you've been practicing doing practice shows, you've got it down pat, and you're going to do, 15 to 10-second runs, you can have a lot more. And you don't necessarily need to list every item, but listings do help you get people in and interested because you've got something to show. Because when you're new, they don't know the amazing stacks of fabric you have in your room and the stuff that you've shown before because you're too new. So you've got to have some listings for people to see kind of what stuff you're going to have. All right. I do notice in my number 3, it says list a few low cost items for people to gift or buy to support you as a new seller. You can no longer gift. That used to be an amazing feature we had. I hope someday they'll bring it back. But have some low cost items that you put in your buy it now that people can just buy. I think that's still huge, you know. So like in our category, put some fat quarters in your buy it now for $2 or whatever, ones that you're willing to just blow out. And people will buy them to support you as a new seller, add to their order. So put things in your buy it now at low cost, $1 to $3 items. And you can even do flash sales. You can't do a flash sale on something for that's $1 or less. I mean, you can't sell dollar items on flash, but you can flash sale, put something in there for $4, flash sell it for $3, and put some nice things in there as a new seller to help boost your numbers and get some more additional sales. All right. Feedback is huge. Number 5 on the list. I'm just going down this list. I haven't reviewed this list in a long time. So number 5 is get feedback. Before you ever go live publicly, please have some practice shows where you invite friends, family to come in and experience the whole thing in real time without the public being there, so that they can tell you your lighting's good, they can hear you, your internet's good, and then actually sell some things so that you can complete the entire cycle of selling and shipping and get your feet wet with that whole process before you ever do a public show. So, a private show, when you schedule a show at the very bottom, let me just show you really quick. So, when you go to your Seller Hub and schedule a show, if you scroll to the very bottom, see how you can choose either public, private, or reward club members. So instead of public, you're going to choose private. And then the only way that people will actually see that show is by you sending them the link. So it's a completely private show. Right? So do that multiple times or as many times as you need to feel comfortable about running a show. All right. And then number 6 on the list, run your items. Don't just show them. I think most people have gotten to where they're like, oh yeah, we need to run items. I don't see this as often now, but you do still see people grab something, hold it up. Do you want me to run this? How about you just run it? Okay, so that brings up a point though, which is start it at the price you're willing to sell it. When you're new, start it at the price you're willing to sell it at. If your business model is, I'm going to do dollar starts from day one, and that I'm willing to lose money for a month or two until I build my audience, fine, do dollar starts. But if you're not willing or able to do that, start it at the price you're willing to sell it for. So run the item. You pick it up. If you pick it up, a lot of people have that rule. If you touch it, you run it. So don't even pick it up if you're not willing to run it. If you don't have the audience and you know it's not going to get bid up, don't even touch it. It's off camera where no one can see it. So be strategic about how you do stuff initially so that you don't screw yourself in the end by, running stuff for a lower price than you were willing to sell it at. And then you're really bummed and depressed about how your shows are going. Well, don't run low starts if you're not willing to sell it for that price. Because when you're new, it's a pretty good chance it's going to sell for that low price. When you're new, you don't have enough people in your audience to bid it up. Just a fact, right? All right. And then number 7 is raid. We've talked about raiding. Always raid. Number 8 is join raid trains. We've been talking about that. Number 9, get help. Don't be afraid to get help. And Whatnot has done, in my opinion, an amazing job of just like giving you a plethora of options to find information, get help. They have tutorials. They have the Whatnot Seller Academy. They've got the frequently asked questions section that is just loaded with all kinds of information. We just got a raid from the Scrappy Quilter. Thank you so much for the raid. We're actually doing a seller chat today. Let me pull up your profile and have everybody give you a follow. So the Scrappy Quilter, why is it not showing on my screen on this one? Here we go. The Scrappy Quilter already following you is Dawn. And Dawn has a show tomorrow. Turquoise and teal. Ooh, I like that. A color themed show. And who doesn't love that color? I think that's one of the universal colors that almost everybody loves, right? That turquoise teal color range. It's one of my, it's, if you've ever done one of those, like go find out what um colors look good on you. What is that called? They don't do it anymore. I haven't been to one of those in a long time. You used to go and they drape you with different colors and say, oh, you're a spring or a fall or a winter. Well, this is one of the colors that almost everybody looks good in. So it's a very nice color. All right, enough about the color. Thank you so much, Dawn. Everybody give the Scrappy Quilter a follow and bookmark the upcoming shows on her platform. And she's doing pinks on the 20th. So, hello, teal tomorrow, pink in a few days. Also, I'm a huge pink lover. Love it. And batiks on the 19th. Thank you so much for being here and for that raid. We were just talking about you. Oh, well, my no wonder my nose is itching, right? No. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you so much for the raid. So, we are talking about my top 10 tips, and we were just talking about always rating. So, Dawn did the right thing by rating into someone and networking. And again, I said when you raid, be strategic. Raid sometimes into smaller sellers where you'll get a little bit more attention and appreciation. Sometimes raid into a big seller where you may not get as much individualized attention, but you're getting a lot more exposure. And, just mix it up. Don't always raid into the same person. Don't make the mistake of like, oh, well, I'm always going to raid my friend, because you're not networking and getting your name out there if you raid the same person every time. All right. And then we were talking about number 9, getting help. Everybody look at my show notes. In my show notes, I have all of these starred bullets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now. And those are all the official Whatnot places you can go for different things to get help. So the Whatnot seller account that I showed you tomorrow, they're interviewing the Hodgepodge place. She's an amazing seller. The woman is like on fire all day long, every day. She rocks. And so you need to go listen to her be interviewed so you can get some ideas about what you can do to be like her. Or, just ideas of things you can do differently to, have success as a seller. I love those interviews because you just really get some good ideas. Brainstorming. It's about brainstorming. The second star bullet is the YouTube account for Whatnot. So the YouTube account, let me show you their YouTube account. And when you go find their YouTube account, it is best to search it specifically. Search for it specifically. If I'm missing anything, let's see. Do you follow everyone that follows you? Not necessarily, but I try to follow people who buy from me. And I do follow a lot of people that come to my seller chats because I'm networking, right? But if you go into when you're new, it's not a bad idea to follow people back, honestly, because you're just building your network. But at some point, it can get a little bit overwhelming. But it really doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. All right. So I was going to go show you YouTube. And the way that you find the Whatnot account is to just type it in with the ampersand. So the name of the Whatnot YouTube is at Whatnot app. Like this. And then search. And it kind of, because if you just type in Whatnot, you would think, right? But there's a lot of people doing Whatnot themed videos. So there's a lot of content. Here's the official Whatnot YouTube account. So just at Whatnot app. All of those interviews they do on that Whatnot seller account eventually get posted here that you can rewatch. There's a lot of good content out here, you guys. Make sure you go to that account. There's a lot of seller themed videos they've done. And then there's a lot of these interviews. And then they download these and you can go watch them. So if you missed the live show, go watch it on YouTube. All right. And then the third starred bullet is the Seller Academy. If you're new and you haven't gone through all of the tutorials in Seller Academy, make sure you go do that. They are kind of generic, but it gives you a really good base. So it's kind of the idea of if you build a building and you did not put down a foundation, how long is your building going to stand? How sturdy is it going to be? The Seller Academy is your foundation for learning how to use the app and learning how it works so that you can have successful shows. If you're new, go do all the tutorials in the Seller Academy. The address is right there in the show notes. It's selleracademy.whatnot.com. So go through it. Yes, thank you so much for the raid. Scrappy Quilter. Did everyone give Scrappy Quilter a follow? Cindy's Sewing Journey just popped in. Welcome in. All right, the fourth starred bullet in the show notes is the blog. If you've never been to the Whatnot blog, I highly recommend it. It's kind of like a sneak peek into the actual business side of Whatnot. And you are a seller on their platform. You ought to know what they're doing, the things they're talking about to the business world, the improvements to the app, the things that they're spending their money on. I think it's important for you to know what Whatnot is doing so that it helps you as a seller to know what their focus is. So the Whatnot blog, there's a lot of really good articles that give you statistics about what things are selling and what their biggest categories are and yada, yada, yada. And it gives you some insight and some ideas about what's trending and maybe things you could do differently or that maybe you should try. So go to the blog and read the articles. All right, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. No, that's 6th. The sixth one is the Whatnot Meetup Hub. I added that recently. So they have now a website called meetups.whatnot.com where you can go and see upcoming events for sellers because there are sellers who are hosting get-togethers, meetups in local areas. So if you happen to live in a place where they're going to do a local meetup or you're close enough, you're an hour or two away from one in a big city, you can participate and they are so fun and you get to network. And depending on the location and the number of people, Whatnot will do, they'll sponsor meals and give away swag and, it's a lot of fun. So make sure you go to that meetups.whatnot.com and see if there is a local meetup coming up in an area that you would be able to attend. Or if you want, you can also apply to sponsor a local meetup. So go look at that. It's fun. All right, so that's everything in the show notes. And then my last top 10 tip is engage. What does that mean? I don't know. It depends on you. Engagement is honestly just putting forward your best self authentically to be the best you on the platform in your shows. And always finding ways to improve your show and engage more and be a better seller. So always finding ways to improve. All right, I need to get going today. I've got a bunch of shipping to do. Yesterday was Bert's birthday, so when we finished our show, we ran out to dinner with two of our kids. One of them doesn't live local, and had dinner, and so we're kind of a little bit behind on because normally we ship right after our shows, and we didn't get our shipping completed, so I've got to get our shipping done from last night's show before we have our show today. So I've got to get going. Anyone have any other questions, comments, things they want to say? Yeah, belated birthday to Bert. He had a good day. And we're at that age now where you don't really care so much about the number. You're just excited to wake up, feel good enough to get around moving and do things and spend time with family. So, and I've been that way since when I turned 16, every birthday after that, I'll be honest with you, I'm like, I don't even know what age I am because I don't want to know. And when people ask me how old I am, I have to do the math because I just don't even want to remember. I don't know. I'm not like super age conscious. I just am like, I don't, getting old kind of sucks because your body falls apart and, but in the other ways, it's amazing. Life is amazing. It's a journey, and your kids are getting older and growing up. And I have a granddaughter now, and that's the most amazing reward for having kids is grandkids. So, yeah. But I don't know how old I am. So, yeah. All right. Any other comments, questions, things you want to know about? Let's go find somebody to raid. And I'm going to go see who is live. If there's someone doing another community chat, and if not, we'll raid into the fabric category. I don't know that person. Don't know that person. We can raid over to Canada. Let's see. All right, I think we'll just go right into a fabric show. So let me go find someone that we can raid into. And let's see. Ooh, Rolling Roads is doing vintage linens. Let's go right there. She's got it under quilting sewing, so she's probably doing stuff that are like upcycled linens. I'm actually doing a vintage linen show later this week. So let's go raid Rolling Roads and see what she's got going. All right. Thanks, everyone. Make it an amazing day. And heading over to Rolling Roads. And I do this show every Tuesday and Thursday morning. So if you find my content helpful, that's when you'll see me. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Tara, for modding. Love you guys. Mwah.